Hi, this is Bikram Singh of Norfolk Wine and Spirits. Today we're doing a private tasting, and it's a demonstration of what a typical private tasting will look like. The tasting today is with very experienced whiskey drinkers from Norfolk Whiskey Group, a very eclectic and knowledgeable group of individuals. And we are doing whiskeys from all around the world, so that we get an idea as to what it will look like. Here, let me just introduce the whiskeys that we will be tasting today. So this is a whiskey from Ireland. Next to that is Scotland, a Lagavulin from Scotland. Then we have an English single malt. We have a whiskey from Penderyn, which is Wales. We have a whiskey from Canada, Hunt and Gather, just was released earlier this week, this particular batch. We have an American whiskey. It's a bourbon from a company called Sazerac. This bourbon is called Blanton's. We have a whiskey from France, two whiskeys from India, and a whiskey from Taiwan. And we will be opening a whiskey from Japan as well, Nika from the Barrel. So essentially all the whiskeys today are from Northern Hemisphere, but any country that grows grains essentially has a whiskey. Whether it's South Africa, New Zealand, Australia, Mexico, you name it, every country has whiskey. So let's get into it. Should we start with a Blanton's first, gentlemen?
Sure.
So this one is a single barrel Blanton's that many of us were involved in picking the single barrel. It was very commonly readily available, but now it's not really available. It's an allocated product, but let's give it a shot. So for something to be called bourbon, there are like few guidelines, but general guidelines are it has to be 51% corn, and then it could be any cereal grain. It could be rye, it could be a malted barley, it could be wheat, it could be so many different things. But the minimum component is 51% of corn, and has to be distilled and bottled in the U.S. So we'll take a little sip, and then just breathe out, so that some of the alcohol is blown away, so you're not ingesting it, because that can dominate the flavor too. So what you're left with is more flavor than just the alcoholic burn. That's a little technique that helps me a little bit to appreciate a whiskey. So different countries have different styles, and that's what is very important about. These are all whiskeys, but they all have slight differences, and that makes them unique and interesting. But let's talk about a whiskey that's aged in a Madeira cask, Penderyn. And this is 46% alcohol, so a little bit lighter than the previous two whiskeys. Obviously, we're tasting today without masks, and all four of us are fully vaccinated. So that is one of the challenges of doing in-person tastings. So if we do in-person tastings, we make sure that we know who the audience is. Ooh, beautiful fruit. Yeah. Floral and fruit notes.
Tropical, but also buttery. Yeah, I get the buttery.
So this is Penderyn. We're talking about Madeira cask finish. This is the Madeira cask finish.
Madeira was drank at the founding fathers signing of the Declaration.
Exactly. That's how they wrote probably the Constitution.
It's like an unopened Chardonnay buttery.
The next whiskey we're going to try is called Mithauna. It's from a distillery called Paul John. It's from a state of Goa in India, Western India. It's a coastal village. Till 1966, it was a colony of Portugal. So it has a lot of this Portuguese influence in architecture, culture in that island. This is their whiskey that was rated number 3 in the world among all the whiskeys in the world, and it's called Mithauna. It's finally arrived here. It came here last week, and again, I'm very happy to try these 3 whiskeys that have just recently arrived with this eclectic group, and see what you think.
So you're a whiskey connoisseur.
Thank you for saying that. So are you.
This is very unique store. Like you're not going to find this at Total Wine. You're not going to find this at your typical store. And I don't know where you would find other than here.
We talked about Mithauna, number 3 whiskey of the world. This is, Amrut single malt. We call it Elane Jung, which means declaration of water.
Okay, don't cry.
I'm not going to cry. I am very happy about it. Why would I cry? So
you can cry with happiness.
yes. So this is the first single barrel of Amrut that came to the United States for a single store. So we're very proud of it. And when the master distiller was here, I asked him, can we get a single barrel of Amrut? Because Amrut is a single malt from India, and that put Indian single malt on the map because their whiskey, which is called Fusion, was Jim Murray's #3 whiskey of the world back in the day. Basically this fusion means a fusion of multiple things, basically peated whiskey from Scotland, peated malt from Scotland, and Indian barley. Also, pardon me? From the foothills of the Himalayas, and also ex-bourbon barrels and sherry casks. So there were a lot of different things that came together, and a slightly peated whiskey is a beautiful, beautiful whiskey. So we were doing well with that. We really appreciated it, and there were some single barrels going to Taiwan and also Europe. And I asked him, like, hey, why can't we get a single barrel? And he asked me, when were you in India last? I said, a decade ago. I don't have a reason to go or whatever. And he knew that I was not going to go. He said, if you come to India, we'll make sure that you secure a barrel. I said, okay, I'll be there next year. And sure enough, 6 months later, I was in India, and he was forced to, he was forced to, keep his, yeah. So he was forced to keep his promise, and he did keep his promise because we went there. I spent the entire day with Surinder Kumar and Ashok Chokalingam, Surinder has since retired. Basically, this was pretty much the last single barrel he sold. And this is barrel number 662. Barrel number 660, the same year in Europe, was named the best single malt in that category. And we got the barrel which is 2 next to it. And according to Surinder and Ashok, this was a much superior barrel to that. And they offered it to us, and we all know the rest is history. This is one of the best whiskey that many of us, among the top 5 whiskeys we ever had. So I'd love to share it with you guys today because there's not much left, because I think people who have it don't like to share it too much anymore because there's very little there.
Even
so thank
George
you.
Hatton said it was the best whiskey of the year.
Yeah, for him, yeah.
Well, didn't Whiskey Advocate rate that as?
Oh yeah, Whiskey Advocate rated as 94 points, which is very, very high, yeah.
This is beautiful.
Yeah, it's
Blown away by the fruits, like the
Absolutely
stone
Fruit,
pineapple.
peaches, the sultanas. There's so many layers. I mean, we're drinking,
peaches.
standing up very quickly after a whole array of
Try
different
that
whiskeys, but this is such an elegant whiskey. So layered, nuanced,
Complex,
and powerful at the
subtle.
same time. All right then, so we have traveled the world. We have started in America, through the United Kingdom. We have 4 different whiskey expressions. We went to Europe, we went to India, Taiwan, and so on and so forth. So thank you for being here and joining in this journey. This was great.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
Appreciate it.
Cheers.